Welcome everybody. It's an honor to be sitting with Deepak over here and talking about his journey, especially since ad tech is such a hot space. Everybody over here in the internet space knows about how difficult it is to build a company, especially in an environment with giants like Google, Facebook, and everybody else. But Deepak has been one of those entrepreneurs who've started his journey in a very interesting way. So what I want to do is I had a few questions of my own which I'm going to start with, and then we'd love to have people from the audience chime in. The idea is to extract all the ideas out of Deepak so that each one of you over here can take that one piece of advice which can possibly help you transform your company or your own career. So Deepak, my first question to you really is that you've been, your journey has been very exciting. You have worked in big companies like Times of India. You've been part of companies like Yahoo, and then you've worked for a startup like Moj, and then you did your own startup. So it's one of those, I would say, rare journeys, because normally here you either have people jumping from a big company directly to a startup, or the whole thing is very fuzzy. So what happened? How did this journey work out for you?
So, as far as the journey is concerned, I think just before I got into Times or something, before that, I was actually running a poultry farming business. So I did like...
Poultry farming also.
Yeah. So I did that for like about, 2.5, 3 years. Didn't work out. And then I had to kind of get into something, which was something which looked promising. And Times became like a promising opportunity. Within that, what was interesting is, like, I would say, by not out of design, but out of default, it so happened that I started working with the incubation team, which was doing the launch of timesofindia.com. They kind of, found me, probably someone, with some entrepreneurial background. They found me fit in that area. Having said that, I had no poise, no polish in terms of dealing with media as a business, because after doing poultry farming, where you speak in a very, in a totally different language, yeah. So any which ways, so you kind of like have your conversations very differently, or dealing with a different skill set of people, and here you're moving into a media industry where you're packaging, you're trying to create perception out of something, and you're trying to sell something. But the good part was, what excited me was that the internet ecosystem excited me at that stage, and I kind of stuck with that. Very quickly for me, the whole thing, I think what was common between what I did early or with Times was the fact that there was an element of curiosity, discovery, challenge, all put together on a daily basis. I continued with that as long as as long as there was curiosity, challenge, and discovery. Once I kind of reached a point within that organization and felt that there is none of this, and there is everything else, let's move on. And that's how I kind of moved on from there. And I ended up, so whether it was after that, whether it was India Today or whether it was Yahoo, again, the common fact was I was always dealing with something which was new. So with Yahoo, I got at a very early stage involved with rolling out, India's first short code service, rolling out Yahoo Mail, Yahoo Messenger on SMS in 2001. That again was total discovery. For someone which is, for a media company like Yahoo, and in the US they didn't understand SMS. And all in all, like Yahoo in India had just about 12 people. And I and one engineer and one more colleague. So we were just 3 of us in the system trying to navigate that. That again became exciting. So somewhere after I did all of that, and then, before Yahoo, I was also with a startup. I was with a startup called Intercept, which was India's first online ad network. And that was the company which was one of the first companies which got venture funded in 1999. And then Moj, obviously. So all in all, for me, it was like all along, when I got into Moj, when I was hired there as a core team, they told me that, you have traits of an entrepreneurial manager. That's where I learned, that's where, they labeled me like that. I didn't really understand that at that point of time, but maybe they were trying to decipher that, okay, here is a guy who lives with some chaos. He's able to manage, chaos, unpredictable things, and he's got some flavor of a larger setup, which he's been exposed to. So he can probably balance both things.
But taking the jump, because all this time you were still working with companies which were already pre-funded and stuff like that. But
Correct.
deciding to do a startup was quite a challenge at that time, I would say.
Yeah, so in 2009, I think in terms of a learning curve for me, I had closely seen. I think for me it became like my last assignment when I was with Moj. Those 6 years kind of, I saw, two faces. I saw, which is where I learned, in startups you kind of live only with two emotions. Either there is euphoria or there is terror. These are the only two reasons why you need to be in a startup. And you need to experience them every day. So I kind of like really saw that phase and dealt with that. And then for me it was like, okay, what next? I've seen that. I've looked at all those pieces. The only thing which I need to now do is go out and stick my neck out and try to build something on my own. So I kind of gathered all my courage at that point of time. It was hard. It was hard because when I decided to do the startup, I was already 37. I had 2 kids, all of that, a good stable income, So making that shift for me was like, okay, I need to make the shift as soon as possible. One thing at that time which really helped me was the fact that luckily I had taken a home loan, which I ended up clearing up, by the time I got to the age of 36. So I had no baggage. So I told one day my friend that, the home loans kind of come in the way for people to take risks in the country. So no one should take that.
Maybe VC should start giving home loans. That's an idea for fostering entrepreneurship in India.
Absolutely. I just feel that a lot of people kind of like, the moment they're done with their post-graduation, they get into a job, they end up taking one big loan, and then they start working for that loan,
Yeah, that's an interesting piece. So I didn't know about your poultry farm experience, but probably that explains how you decided to not keep all your eggs in one basket, right? Or you did keep all your eggs in one basket, because what you did was a very, very risky thing. 2009, the mobile internet was just about started. You had to convince people, why do you want to advertise on a phone? There was just SMS. SMS spam was all over. It's not like it's not there now, but it was at its peak at that time. And you decided to set up a company in the ad tech space, an ad network literally, when the market was probably not the best and there was already many players in the market. So how did you do that?
So the market was not there in terms of number of players. I think there were like 1 or 2 players there in the market, but at the same time we knew that the market would mature over a period of 3 to 4 years time. So we probably felt that from a timing point of view and an opportunity point.
Google had just acquired AdMob, right?
Bang on. So in fact, the day we set shop, that was the day Google acquired AdMob. It was 5th Jan 2010 is when Google acquired AdMob, and we opened our office that day. And I told my colleague that, listen, this is a positive sign for us. So coming back, but yes, at that time for us, it was definitely, so 2 things for us was that A, we were totally committed about the opportunity. We're thoroughly convinced that the market 4 years, 5 years down the line will turn out to be a big market. The other thing was just the fact that we knew that India would see a phenomenal scale of digital consumers, which the internet didn't present itself. Yeah. So that was really the big driver, and the other big thing was team. So my other co-founder, who is the technology guy, he's the CTO of the company. So he and I have been working together since 2001. So he and I kind of over a period of time started developing a love-hate relationship. Saying that, okay, what works, what doesn't work. We've saw that through. So when we decided to partner and get going with this, I think that was one more underlying fact for me, saying that, do I have the right guy in the room who will also demonstrate the same appetite, can deal with all the uncertainties, can complement us, can complement my thinking, can, when we are in a startup, many times you are bashed down, you don't know what to do, and you really need to kind of rely on another person to kind of give you other alternative ideas. So that was another powerful piece, and then the 2 of us felt, okay, yes, just go behind it.
And over the period of years, you interacted with companies, clients, partners. So I think one thing which I am particularly wanting, and I'm sure people over here would want to know, is who actually helped you and who did not help you. Which are the people you thought, these guys are surely going to help me or give me business or give me leads or help you grow your company? So who did not and who did?
That's a very interesting one. Actually speaking, when I was at, I'll be very candid here. When I was at Moj and we started this, and suddenly, obviously, yes, we had an X set of competitors when we were there, and when we moved into this piece, my impression was, as we started doing this, my first impression was that people would carry their baggage. So people whom we were competing with at that time when we were at Moj, and we know that we need these customers. Strangely for me, and that was totally, a misconception, those guys were the guys who actually first took the risk of adopting our product. So I'll be very candid. We went to India Games, we went to Nazara, we went to all the guys, and we were competing at that time. When we were at Moj, we were competing with your company, we were competing with other folks. But when we went out and made those pitches, we definitely had some inertia. But those were the ones who really kind of took risk of early adoption of our products. And in those customers, we really found people who could experiment with our offerings and give us a chance. So that to me was honestly surprising. And then on the other side, in terms of figuring out, who are the people who would not help? Strangely, I would say that when we started this, around 2010, early 2010, 2011, as an entrepreneur, I got, there were some people who I approached were my, whom I knew in the past, and I thought that these could be potential mentors, or I could go and have a conversation with them. They didn't work out, in the sense that I went to a guy, I told him, I'm looking at this understanding and stuff like that. Obviously, I can't name the person here, but his piece was, okay, you know what, I will do this. I'm seeking this kind of equity in your business. The moment I heard that, I kind of withdrew from that conversation. I saying, you know what, doesn't make sense in that form. On the other hand, we kind of like reached out to, other people in the industry, friends, who have worked with us in the past or colleagues in the past. We went to them, we told them about our solution, some of them with agencies, some of them with customers. And obviously out of that, there was lots of people who really helped us in that sense.
That's interesting. So now VServe has, you are really one of the leading companies in the entire space. A lot of people out here who either want to start their own ad tech companies or who are looking at this space with equal excitement and euphoria. One of their challenges is that do they need to hire more technology people or do they need to hire more sales people? Because there's always this that we have the technology but not enough sales, or we have a lot of sales people but not enough technology. So what is your mix, and what is the fundamental advice for you for people who want to do this?
No, I think it is just technology, and I think you don't need, sales people. If you end up, in fact, for the first 2 years, we didn't have any salespeople. I was the only business development stroke sales guy for the first 2 years, and we had only engineers with us. And so my input on that is you have to build your business purely on the back of technology and your platform, not on the sales side. Unless and until, if sales is a very different piece, you can do that as a small lifestyle business. That's a different thing. But if you really want to build a large media business in the digital space, the first thing which you have to keep in mind that here you're trying to solve the problem around data all the time. So unless you don't think of data science, unless you don't think of algorithms which can process a lot of data, so you need those people in the room to begin with, and then you need anyone else.
And today the whole ad space is kind of challenging. VCs are no longer seem to be interested in putting a lot of money in this space. So what is the next leap which is happening here? What is the next big trend you see and people can learn from if they really are serious about taking this to the next level?
See, I think, in the advertising space or today, I would say that I don't think, from an investor point of view or from a VC point of view, I think most of them in that space are interested in very early stage companies which have a very niche and a differentiated technology. Yes, those companies would definitely get required funds. But when you're looking at a company which is grown in size, has reached to a large scale, for them, then you need late stage growth investors, which are not there in the country as a category. So if you're a late stage growth company with lots of people and a big scale which you've developed, then you need to go outside the country to kind of really find the right partners.
So of course the next question is, when are you raising your $500 million?
I don't need to raise so much.
Since we spoke about late stage companies.
Yeah. So I think, so first of all, you know, we are a B2B business, you know, we are a B2B business, and when we look at capital, we really look at capital, that how much capital do we really need for the next 2 to 3 years. And the large area where we deploy capital is behind people. So for us, it's not a marketing cost. You know, for us, it's like people. So if we know that we're going to add 200 people over the next 2 years, and hence to kind of enable that, we need to ensure that we have salaries for the next 3 years. So, okay, so we need another 10 million or a 12 million, you know, to take care of that cost. So in that sense, you know, we don't need to raise so much like the way a direct-to-consumer business, where you end up spending a lot on customer acquisition, and over time you end up milking that.
I mean, we are right now in a very interesting scenario. I am hearing that startups are hiring people from Google, Facebook, and Twitter. Indian startups. It's a scenario like this, and especially in your space, there is literally a war if you are a good engineer or a good business development person to retain or hire. So how do you manage to do that? I mean, how do you get your team motivated, especially in such a hyper-competitive world?
See, I think, yes, we are in a very hyper-competitive world. And I would say that when we set up, just a couple of things we did, a couple of smart things which we did is like, A, we are a company based out of Bombay. Our investors were in Bangalore. When they invested into us, they encouraged us to shift to Bangalore, you know. And I and Akshay, you know, took this call and he said that we should not shift to we should not shift to Bangalore. You know why? Because you know what? There it's a fairly competitive market. You know, if you're going to be a business out here, if we need to hire only about another 100, 150 engineers, can we go ahead and get those quality people in Bombay, or do I need to, just for that reason, just for some reason, need to be in Bangalore? So we stayed away from that.
It's interesting because now there's a huge trend of companies wanting to shift to Bangalore. So that was a conscious decision.
It was a very conscious. We were like literally pushed by our investors saying that why don't you set up shop in Bangalore? And we were like, no. What is our need? Our need is to hire X number of people, and where can we like really do that? And to our advantage, it's played out very well, because yes, you know, in the space in which we are in, if we were set up there, our attrition rate would definitely be much higher in Bangalore. Our cost of people would be much higher in Bangalore as opposed to what we have in Mumbai.
That is a good one. So retaining in Bombay or being in Bombay was different. But how do you motivate these people? Because again, as I said, they are, even in Bombay, there are so many agencies, and there is, you know, Google, Facebook, everybody is looking at these people at the end of the day. So
I think, you know, yes, there are larger companies which will obviously be there. But clearly, you know, when you talk to people or when you talk to talent, you know, like I said, there are people in the market who get inspired or encouraged by euphoria or terror on a daily basis, and there are other people who don't want to get into that zone. So that really, we've clearly seen that kind of sticks very well. And like we've had lots of people who worked with us. Now we are like 5 years old, so we have people in our system who've been with us for 5 years. We have people in the system who've been with us for 3 years. And I think what keeps, at the end of the day, anyone's decision to be with you or not be with you, in my view, that's a decision which he in a way either takes on a daily basis, you know. So if you're constantly working together, enjoying what you're doing, loving the challenges which you're dealing with, and you're very transparent about it, yeah. In a startup, many times what happens is that, what I've seen is that, we've seen it with some founders kind of, you know, are overwhelmingly feeling that they need to just transfer positivity to their team. You know, if there is, you know, which in my view, you know, is not the correct thing. You need to be totally transparent. So if you have a good day, it's a good day. If you have a fucked up day, I'm sorry, you should be saying that. You should be saying things the way they are. You don't need to be packaging or doing it, because, and people take it. You know, sometimes I have seen with that, you are overtly under the impression that I as a founder need to just create a very positive image of what I'm doing.
In fact, recently I heard is that bad news should travel faster than good news if you are in a startup. So you
Bang
look
on.
like you are really following that.
Yeah. So just be the way it is, and I think people really like that, because why do people come to startups and not work with, in my view, larger organizations? Because they want to see through things, they want to say that, okay, is this guy intellectually honest about every conversation or not? They're judging those conversations, and that kind of, I think, either builds the relationship or it puts holes in a relationship.
I mean, clearly over the last 5 years, you have now reached a stage where you are a success story, and everybody, the problem is mostly people look at you and they forget the 5 years and they think, oh, this has now become kal tak to aisa hi tha, today they are successful. So in reality, I mean, I know you have had more than once cycle of bad times, especially 2009. It's just over the last 18 months or so, or 2 years, there's a lot of action. So how did you survive those times? How was that? Good times, we all know how it happens, but what happened in the bad times?
I think it's it's a good one. Like, if you're asking me how do you survive any kind of bad times, I think everything is transient. That's something which you need to get used to it. And I think for us it was like always the fact that as two founders, we always knew that if we're going to do something good, we will probably feel great about it. Customers will come back, talk about it. Sometimes you will feel that I'm doing all the right things, but nothing is moving. Nothing is moving. I'm putting in lots of effort. But stay put. Stay put, because it's a cycle. And as long as you know that you're operating in a market which is fundamentally large, it's just a matter of time for it to break out. And every problem, even if, sometimes, I'll quote an example for a particular product. There is one product of yours which is doing exceedingly well, and then suddenly you kind of come to a stage where you start seeing that product is not seeing that kind of adoption, and you have to find a way to pivot that. So that this pivoting is going to take us 8 to 9 months or 10 to 11 months. That expectation setting should be there.
And I know you're already looking at not pivoting in a way, but expanding your business from just ads to going to the next level of.
Correct.
So could you talk a little bit about that, and why did you decide to do it?
So we kind of, so the area which we have pivoted into, or which we've expanded into, which for us is in a way, was a logical step. But from a timing, so yes, we used to look at our business first saying that we are in an ad business, and we need data to support that. So we used to say that we need to deal with great ad formats. We need to deal with, a whole lot of what you say, not just ad formats, serving the right ad to the user, and the data part of it, we used to keep it in the cart. So ad formats, publisher, supply, sales, we used to put that as the horse and the data as the cart. We suddenly asked ourselves that we're doing the wrong thing. We need to make our business, we need to look at everything led through data. So data should be the horse and everything else is the cart. It was relatively easier. It was not something which was alien within the system, but just to put that in front just changes the prism through which you look at things. So now we are like, for the last 18 months, we've been doing things, everything which we do, keep in mind that how we are getting a better and a sharper view about the customer. Internally, we kind of keep asking ourselves that, is our matrix around data improving all the time? Yes, monetization could be behind there, but we cannot be, behind in terms of that data piece. So that's one area which took us time. It really took about 6-9 months to transition that into. We're still learning many new things. I think it will take us another 6 to 9 months to kind of really come to a point where we say that, we've completely nailed it.
So one last question before we open it to the public here, that people, there's this myth that you can't build a successful ad tech or ad network business if you're only focused in India. India is not the biggest market. You need to be in Europe, in China, and Japan, and America, and all these places. In your case, it's not the case. India still happens to be one of your dominant markets. Yeah. So what do you think the future of this is, and how did you only focus on India while everybody else was going all over?
So we started with India, Vishal. I would say that yes, India as a business was, India is a good market, big market, but yes, I would agree with the philosophy that if you're building a large business, you need to go outside of India for sure. You can't just build a business which is restricted to India. So India is like about 35, 37% of our business from where it was, when we started 100% of our business was India. But in terms of our choices, what we did is, as opposed to going to developed markets, we took a call of going to emerging markets. We told ourselves that we should stick to Southeast Asia, India, then over time expand into MEA or LATAM as a region, but not entertain the idea of going to the US or going to China or going to Japan. We took that call because of, so we found the market large, and we found that the maturity of the organization as we keep going, the timing of that maturity and the timing of the market getting matured would sync up. And that's how it would play to our advantage.
Fantastic.